Okay, now we're looking at knee elbow escape. Now this is probably one of the single most common escapes from mount. It works gi, no gi, has been around forever, and it's something that realistically as a beginner, you really want to know. So let's start from a very basic idea. Now, escapes, like anything in jiu-jitsu, are tools. If you use the wrong tool, if you use the tool at the wrong moment, nothing is ever going to start even working, okay? If for whatever reason I start knee elbow escape when he's putting a lot of weight onto me, it's hardly going to work, okay? But then kipping becomes much easier. Vice versa, if I start kipping from here, it's not even going to start working, okay? So you really want to understand when it's time to use a position, okay? It's quite pointless to know 20 different escapes if you don't know when to use them. So when do I use a knee elbow escape? So usually when my partner is crowning my hips with his body weight. So whenever his body weight is up, his head is up, sorry, and his body weight is on top of my hips, that's when I want to go in knee elbow escape, okay? We're going to walk through all the defenses, and then at the end of it, we're going to recap a little bit of the dilemma game. So when to use what, once we've covered all the main escapes. So for a start, I really need to get this inside elbows, okay? If I don't get this inside elbow, if I'm here, if I'm just sort of spazzing around and bridging, that's never going to go anywhere. I need to get this inside elbow position and start usually posting on his hips like this. Like this doesn't make much of a difference, okay? Now, if he goes to get an underhook there, it's not impossible. He can potentially start separating my arm, but it is quite difficult, okay? Especially because I'm not going to stay here for 10 minutes. I want to start stretching my leg, turning my hips ever so slightly, so that I get a purchase on his ankle, and I start eating his ankle up, okay? Now, I want to start scissoring my legs so that his knee becomes a little bit lighter. I start scissoring and push in. Okay, we're in this position. From here, there are two main approaches. There's a more classical jiu-jitsu approach to finish this position, or there's a more wrestling-based approach. We're going to look at both. So the more classic, very basic classic jiu-jitsu position is from here. I start bringing hands inside, cross shoulder post. I cover this cross-faced leg, arm, sorry, and I just bring everything inside, and I am back to neutral position. Okay, I'm back in half guard. I'm officially out of mount, and I'm ready to attack. Now, is this what I would recommend as a complete beginner? Yes, sure. If you're not a complete beginner, this is not the best option. Why? Because you land in a neutral position. You know, this is just guard. Now, if he scored on you, if you're in a competition, he's ahead on point, he might not have any interest in forcing a guard pass. And so he might just stay there forever until the time is over and you weren't able to do anything. Okay? So it definitely works, but it's not necessarily what I would want. Okay? So once again, here, I turn my hips ever so slightly, catch, come on, 2, and I'm out. Okay? Now, to make things more interesting, now let's go into different approaches to go straight into offensive cycles. So, I turn my hips, and now when I go to turn into him, I bump him forward with this underarm, and I bump him forward, and I disappear here underneath. Okay? Now, if you had learned jiu-jitsu like I did about 20 years ago, I was taught to get a tight waist here and to start coming up like this. And then take my partner's back like this. Obviously, it's never going to work, okay? Because everyone, as soon as you punch this up, everyone is going to punch a whizzer, meaning this overhand, and they're going to immediately meta return you. Oh. So it's really not something you want to, it's something really you want to try to avoid as much as possible. So you use this arm to bump him forward, arm and leg, bump him forward. And now you have a couple of options. First of all, more jiu-jitsu based. I come one and I start hooking his leg like so. And then there are a few things that I can do. I can go inside here, no, inside. I can grab his legs. There are many different options. It's pointless to go too much into the details, okay? But the point is that now I am in what's known as a Kusoto guard, Kusoto hook, or Coyote guard. Now I can start taking him over and coming up. I can start locking his heel into his butt and using this to come up in this direction. Obviously, this is not a half guard instructional, but you want to play as much as possible with this reaction, okay? So I start to come up, he posts, and I turn him, and now as you can see, I was in a defensive position a moment ago, and now he's carrying my weight. So this is definitely a very good option, very solid, has been there forever, okay? The other option, once you got to this position, is to start building height. This is something that it's always interesting to do because it adds another dimension to the game and forces your partner to deal with a somewhat unexpected move, which is this idea that you're trying to build height, to go up. So from here, you can build height in a few ways. You can use this to start coming up, and he is going to punch in a whizzer 100% all the time. And now we're in a dogfight. Now, this is not a dogfight instructional, of course, but you could potentially limp arm from here. So I take my hand, I take my hand, and when he starts bringing pressure in his shoulder, I put my palm towards the ceiling, and I throw everything forward, and now I'm taking his back. This is a more modern version of what I was taught about 20 years ago, which looks something like this. I come up, and then, no, without you, yeah. And then I just go, okay? Today is never gonna happen. What's gonna happen, more realistically, is that I bump him forward, I come up, he's gonna punch a whizzer, and now we're chest to back. The other great option is to go into a proper wrestling exchange. Once I bump him forward, instead of going for his hips, you feel like the whizzer is coming up too soon. Maybe you're already punching a whizzer, and you think, man, as soon as I come up, he's met returning me immediately, and there's just no way for me even to start building height. Now what do? You take your leg, your arm, and you start going underneath the buttocks. Now when he goes to use the whizzer power now, there's really nothing there. Okay, it's really hard for him to put any pressure on you because this leg is very low. This arm is very low, sorry. Now from this position, I'm posting with my hand. I post with my leg, and now we're in a proper wrestling exchange. I catch. This leg should be pretty light. If it isn't, you can scoop it with your leg so it becomes even lighter. You pick up and you start shelving. At this point, if he knows what he's doing, he's probably going to put his hands on the floor because he's noticing the pressure. And now, many options. I can start climbing towards the back. I can start going for a double leg. He can start coming up, stand up, stand up, stand up, and we're in a proper wrestling exchange. Many things that can happen, okay? What I recommend to my students from this position is to start climbing towards the back. So you want to go climb, 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 and switch side. Now we're in chest to back, we're in turtle, and as I said, we're back into an offensive cycle.